This is the quest within.
Food.
No.
It's an interesting topic.
It's a delicious topic.
Oh, it's the best topic.
Literally and figuratively.
Nate and I kind of met over food, if you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, like he made food, I gave it to people. Once in a while, he made food and then I ate it, you know? Chef life.
Chef life. Thug life.
That's what's up. But Nate, so this is one of the alternative topics that you sort of mentioned when we were brainstorming earlier that doesn't, I guess, specifically relate to mental health, but
Sure
it still
it does.
kind of does. But that said, I'm really excited to talk about food.
I just want to talk about food. I love food. I love everything about food.
Good.
Although I am technically to people the skinny chef, which to people believe that I don't eat enough, which is not a thing.
I know. I've watched.
Do you know of the so I like food myths, but have you heard of the clean plate rule?
Yeah, I have. I grew up that way because I was poor. So yeah.
It's something that perpetuates through society. It's like you have to clear your plate. It's like we had breakfast this morning.
Right.
Took stuff home.
Yeah.
Don't need to clear your plate. You just got to listen to your body.
Exactly.
But-
And I've been trying to do that lately.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot more. It's just be like, oh, I'm full. I'm done eating. Like, I'll take it home. American portions are way too big anyways, you know? So,
Well, food pervades into everything in our lives, right? We need it. And calories are calories.
yeah.
But how you consume those calories is important. The quality of the food you eat does have a direct correlation between your energy, your output, and just put flavor in your food, people.
Yeah.
Its flavor's so amazing.
Agreed.
It's one of the best experiences in life.
Oh, yeah. I grew up with, like, my dad seasoning everything, like, crazily good. And he seasoned it so greatly, like, delicious-wise, that we would often make fun of, like, normal, like, white people food, you know, salt and pepper's too much. Yeah.
Boiled chicken.
So I definitely grew up with a really great palate, and that's one of the things that I'm so grateful my parents did for me is that they made me eat really, like, out there, expansive, delicious food flavors, you know, so that I'm not just a chicken tendies and fries adult, right? Not that there's anything wrong with those, but when that's all your palate can handle, I don't know.
I would say it's not what your palate can handle. I think, you know, my observation, I was very lucky that I kind of grew up around food. My mother cooking. My mother was a vegetarian. She has been, as of this date, about 43 years. My father was a English meat and potatoes guy.
Yep.
Every single meal, everyone had to have a form of potato. Most of the incarnations were boiled.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
literally straight up boiled potatoes.
Yep. I would eat those as a kid too. So
Dry as hell.
Yeah.
Not because my mother's like, that's just the nature of boiled potatoes. And if it was a fancy night, maybe roasties. But generally, and then the
wait, do
leftovers.
you call them that in England? Roasties?
Yeah, roast
when you like
potatoes.
put it in the oven and bake it, or
No, roast it.
Oh yeah, okay, sure.
There's a difference.
Sure, yes, there is. Yes, okay, got it. I've just never heard that. Surprisingly, out of all the years of knowing you.
Yeah, one restaurant I worked at, it was kind of a higher level restaurant in London, but every Sunday was Sunday roast day.
Oh, okay.
So you would get a big old roasting tray, fill it with lard, get
Lard.
the lard hot,
Really?
and every single potato had to be rounded, like a perfect bowl. You would then, once the lard is hot, you would throw the potatoes in, fill it, cover it in salt, flake salt,
Yeah.
roast it until the bottom was brown, and then
Okay.
you turn all the potatoes and do it again, and you get this like beautifully salty, crispy potato.
That does sound kind of great.
Oh,
not
it's
gonna
delicious.
lie.
And then you do, you know, roast carrots, parsnips. You would do Yorkshire puds.
Sure.
You would do roast beef, and that's like a very traditional Sunday carvery.
Yeah, carvery.
Carvery dinner, mate.
Can you please speak as much British as possible
Oh, man.
in this? Because
We'll see what happens. But in this day and age where we are right now, food is getting more and more expensive. And the mindset of like, okay, well, food is getting more expensive, so it's easier to gravitate towards more processed things
Yeah.
that are cheaper, which I get, right?
It is. And honestly, man, I have been falling ill to that because I'm always on the go, right? And, you know, I've been doing a lot of Lyft driving lately, and it's so easy to just stop at a C-store or a gas station, right? And buy one of the sandwiches there or like a hot dog. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I've definitely fallen prey to that lately. And there's always this thing in the back of my mind, like, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but it's so convenient.
Well, it's not about shouldn't. It's like, it's the reality that our time is taken up by so many things, and it's harder to value that as positive time for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true.
Though, you know, I went through a phase after I left the cooking world and stopped being a chef. I left because I felt like I wasn't passionate anymore, among other reasons.
Yeah.
But in my mind, if I wasn't passionate about it, I'm taking up a spot for someone else to where it could be. And
wow, that's an interesting way to look at it. But I agree with you totally.
Cooking is an art, right? It's a hard art, but it is an art.
It is an art,
and you have to be passionate about it to do it well. Like my very good friend Luke just opened up a restaurant. Go check it out, Olio in Bayport, Wisconsin. Minnesota. But that man has so much passion. Yeah, he runs his little 34-seat restaurant. Goes in the morning, preps food, and it's like, it's not work for him. It's just joy.
Love that.
And I didn't have that. So, you know, I've done some reflection looking back on it now, is that I finally kind of found that passion again, because I love talking about food.
Right.
I love cooking for food.
Hence why we're doing a podcast about
Hence
food.
what I'm doing a podcast. But the way that I kind of realized where that has stemmed from recently is integrating with my local market in Seattle. And I realize it sounds a little, I don't want to say pretentious in some ways, but I think there's a very huge disconnect within the world of food and people and consuming it.
Okay.
Because we really don't know where our food comes from anymore.
That is true. I couldn't tell you where mine comes from. Like, the farm is like listed on the package or whatever, but
sure.
Or General
Most food
Mills.
comes from in the US, right? It's not normal to be able to get bananas, or, well, you can't get bananas all year round, and all these other vegetables. We don't understand seasonality.
Yeah.
And when you flow with seasonality, it's actually a lot better, and the food tastes great.
Yeah.
Like, I think what's missing for a lot of people is they actually don't realize, especially in America, because I'm sure you probably know this, when you go to Europe, tomatoes taste different.
Yeah, they do. And bro, okay, so I often tell people the food I had in China was the best I've ever had in the world. It's for this reason. Like, the flavors and textures and everything of these foods I'd eaten hundreds of times just tasted better, and I don't know why or what it was, but yeah, it's maybe the same concept.
It is. I mean, there's a huge issue with farming and soil depletion, and you know, where is the money? The money's in corn, so that's where all the subsidies went. Not a lot of farmers have full regenerative cycle farming practices anymore, where you would have chickens that eat certain things, and then the cows come along, then it's all regenerative. We don't understand the life cycle of a chicken up until death. Same with cows. I've met people during my life that didn't know what that piece of meat was, that was like, oh, that's just where it appeared. And to me, that's a huge loss, to have such a disconnection from what we put into our bodies.
Yeah.
You know, the reality is that if you go into McDonald's or any other fast food chain, what you're eating is designed to be as consistent as possible,
right,
and have as many preservatives and other things to last the food chain, right?
Yeah.
If you buy something at a farmer's market, it will probably last 5 days, which is normal unless you do something with it to preserve it. So, like, I've got into a habit of Sundays are my day, and I go to the gym in the morning, and then I go to the market.
Love that.
I know the farmers by name. I had talked to them about, you know, what's going on right now, and I love being integrated into that community and supporting people.
That is so
cool. And I
cool.
think a big misconception is that it's more expensive.
Yeah, you would. Well, but is it though? Because you're getting it direct from the farmers,
and you're actually getting the whole hog. So if you go to a grocery store, right, and you buy a bag of carrots, you get carrots. You know what's missing from that? Carrot tops.
True.
You can do a ton of things with carrot tops.
Really?
Yeah.
Carrot Top isn't just a shitty comedian from forever ago. Yeah, didn't. Anyways,
you can do a ton of things. You can use it like parsley. You can make a chimichurri. You can make a delicious pesto out of it.
I had no idea.
You go buy radishes. You go buy beets. You can cut the tops, saute them, eat them. Right. All of these things you can use in other practices. So when you're using you're getting more value for what you're doing and doing with it. It does require a little bit more effort.
Right.
However, like when you taste that, oh my God, it's so delicious.
I bet.
And with some cucumbers.
Yeah.
But do you really think a large grocery chain cares about the quality of what they're selling you for the most part?
Not for the most part, no, but also, yeah. I mean, it has to be good enough. And how far has it traveled
through that food chain?
I know what you're, probably trying to.
It's actually generally better to eat frozen peas, than buying fresh peas, because as far as like flavor goes, because frozen peas they are stripped and flash frozen immediately, which that means they're actually retaining more flavor than something that's been, as soon as it's picked, the degradation period begins.
That makes sense.
Part of the reason why tomatoes don't taste as good as in Europe is that the soil here is just depleted to an extent. Then there's no nutrients, and you need nutrients. If you grow them at home, they can taste really amazing.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
So I think all I'm trying to say here is that I have an open invite to people. If they're in Seattle, I will take anyone to the market and talk to them, and it's like, what's that? It's kohlrabi. What's kohlrabi? Like, you're learning about so many different varieties of vegetables out there.
No, honestly, I don't even know what kohlrabi is. I've never heard of that. What is it?
Kohlrabi. Kohlrabi is a kind of part of the cabbage family.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It's delicious.
I bet.
Yeah.
Especially when it's fresh, right? Yeah, food is something that I absolutely love, but like, I'll eat most things. Like, I'll eat really nice ramen at a nice ramen place, but I'll also eat like 20-cent Maruchan.
Sure.
Because I think both taste good. I know one is probably better for me than the other, and one tastes much better than the other, but I still like the other one.
It takes a lot of time to make a good ramen.
Yeah, that's true.
To that point, right, a lot of people, I find the common response, I think I said this earlier, was like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And to me, I make time for it, obviously, because I know how to cook, and it's important to me. Also, it's important to me what I put in my body.
Right.
I think a lot of that stems from fear of not being able to cook, or the thought process of like, I can't actually make good food, so I'm not going to try. So I fail. Like, I think the beauty of cooking is that even if you quote unquote fail, you have another opportunity to do it again and do it better.
True. Yes.
And keep on going and practicing and learning. And you get to a baseline point where you can look at a recipe and say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then you alter it how you like it. You change the flavor profile. Maybe you'll change out a vegetable or a fruit or something with something else. And it really is about confidence in oneself and your senses and your abilities.
Yeah.
And that truly just comes with practice. Yes, some people are more inherently talented, better taste buds, better senses, but it really is about kind of what we were talking about last week, is resilience. Last time was resilience, and that ability to say, yes, like, maybe it's not the best, but I know what to do next time, and I want to try again.
Right.
The best way I've approached it when I teach people how to cook is like, start at the basics of using a knife. You go to Costco, you buy a 10-pound bag of onions, and you just chop onions. And then you can make caramelized onions, you can make French onion soup, you can make a ton of stuff out of it.
Yeah.
But it's just getting that motion down and moving past that initial fear and gaining that little confidence.
Right.
And then just cook the same thing over and over again until you reach that point like, oh no, I feel really good in that. And then move on to the next thing, and you start to grow this repertoire.
Yep.
And then eventually you can, approach any type of recipe, and even though you haven't done it before, have the confidence in your abilities to just cook.
Totally.
And if you allot a couple hours, one day a week, to do some baseline prep, right? Maybe you'll make rice one week, maybe you'll do quinoa another week, maybe you'll do couscous another week, and then use that as your base. And then you get different ingredients and just makes something for the week out of it.
Right. Yeah.
A couple different things, right? You can make a soup. That could be one item. You could have a rice, then you have a little bit of meat and some veg with it, something else. But there is ways to keep it interesting, cook for yourself, and be flavorful and delicious.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. There's that whole, like you said earlier, the like, I don't have time for it, but like, you truly make time for what you want to make time for, right? That's how it is in life. And I know, like, people are busy. Like, that's how it is. My life is crazy overwhelming, but like, I do make time to cook still, because it's just something that, I don't know, I find very therapeutic. back to your point about, I don't even want to try cooking because I might fail, right? I just did a video actually about video game addiction where I talked about a whole plethora of things, but within that video, I did talk about the whole like concept of, I'm not even going to try because I might fail, right? And I related it to playing like an RPG. Like we were just playing Final Fantasy 16. There were some bosses, quote unquote, that I had to beat. They were pretty easy actually, because I'm like in the very beginning of the game. But the point being is that, some of these bosses can be really hard, right? And you might have to try again, albeit in different ways, right? And that's the same as in cooking. That's the same as in art. That's the same as in a lot of things in life, right? Like we might fail the first time, but if we just keep trying it, but in different ways, we're bound to succeed, right? And I give the example of like, what if I didn't use enough buffs before I went into the battle? What if I need to level up more? What if I need to grind, a little bit more to level up and be strong enough, right? What if my gear and equipment isn't properly suited for this particular battle, right? It's about trying different things in different ways that can eventually lead to success. And that goes along also with the resilience factor, which we talked about last time. Yeah, I feel like that very much goes in line with cooking, and that is how I want to relate cooking to mental health. But there's definitely a number of other ways that you can do it, right? Like I feel like the better
cook
food
for my mental health. I love
there you
cooking.
go. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like the better food quality you eat, the better you probably feel in general. Albeit, I mean, that's probably very minuscule and subconscious, but maybe not. I don't know. I definitely can tell though that my body does feel better when, I go on a bender of eating like McDonald's, but then I like have a really good salad at like a nice restaurant, right? I'm like, oh, vegetables, they taste really good. Like, yeah. So anyways, what else is on your mind about food, Nate? Chef Nate?
I just want to break down some fear stigmas around cooking, because I love to teach people.
Definitely.
And food is community.
Yeah.
And food brings people together.
100%.
Historically, stories are all told around a fire. There's food involved, parties, everything else. It's like it also is a way of a culture speaking out loud.
Yeah.
I realize British food is fairly bland.
But you got some slappers, like you got brown sauce.
I love brown sauce.
I mean, come on, dude.
What was it? Worcestershire? Worcestershire?
I heard it's Worcestershire. Is that correct, though? No. Okay, yeah, I'm never going to say it that way again.
Everyone listening is like, is it Worcestershire?
Yeah, I know. Whenever we cook at Maddie's family's house, for whatever reason, they always have me cook the mushrooms. I think because I volunteered to do it one year, and now that's like
the beauty of mushrooms.
Yeah, I cook the mushrooms, and every time I do, Maddie's mom is always like, "Yep, we got Worcestershire sauce in the fridge." I love that woman. Yeah. So, anyways,
yeah, it's moving past some fear and trying something new. Like try cooking a whole chicken.
Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid of cooking like turkeys or chicken and everything because of fear of like overcooking it. Totally get it. There are a lot of ways to do it where that doesn't happen.
Right.
And you get so much more out of everything. Like
Yeah.
I have a whole chicken, you get a ton of things, and then you can make stock.
True.
Delicious, delicious stock.
I've never made homemade stock. I've always just bought it.
It's super easy.
I bet. But see, that's another thing too, is that like, okay, even I said I like to cook, right? But I didn't know what that one vegetable was earlier. I've never made stock. I don't know how to do that. I feel like a lot of the stigma around it is just, it's a lack of education on how to do it, right? Now I know that you could easily go on YouTube and I guarantee you there's like 10 videos on how to make chicken stock, and it's probably really easy, but I feel like the effort that takes is something a lot of people don't want to exert, right? Which is sad, and I'm among them because I haven't done that, right? But I've never even also thought about doing that ever. But yeah, I bet that's amazing. I should try it sometime.
I mean, there's a counterintuitive piece of, it's expensive to go buy groceries. It takes a lot of time. It's easier to order out. Totally understand that.
Yep.
But $40 worth of groceries versus one $40 takeout is very different in what you get out of it.
Yeah, you can make your dollar go way further. I don't know. It depends on what you get, though, right? Like, there are times where I've gone to the grocery store to get a bunch of food and been like, man, I could have just like gone somewhere else and it would have been cheaper. But it's really dish dependent, you know? And at the end of the day, what you just said rings true in most cases. Because, yeah, like, there have been a few moments recently where Maddie and I have not wanted to cook. We've been feeling lazy that day. Well, maybe lazy is not the best word. With that. Yeah, exactly, right. But then, like, we'll order and it'll be like, oh, we got this much food for that much. Like, what? And it's so expensive. But yeah, I feel like I went to a Hy-Vee the other day. That's a Midwest grocery store, for those of you who don't know. Could probably compare it to like Meijer, but without like clothes and toys and stuff. And I feel like we paid a lot. You know, inflation is or greedflation, let's be accurate, is ridiculous these days. And I don't know, man, like going there as opposed to someplace like Aldi, I feel like I like Aldi better because I'm saving money on things that just shouldn't cost that much, but they do at other places. I don't know. There's so many factors that goes into this, man.
The reality is that I'm lucky I have the ability to go to the market I go to, which is the only year-round market in Seattle.
Yeah, because a lot of people live in food deserts too.
100%. And I recognize that my opportunity is very different than other people. It's one of the reasons why I live where I live, is I have the opportunity. But it does exist out there. It does require a little bit of effort. And there's also other opportunities, like depending on your like there's CSAs, there are ways to connect with the local communities, the farming communities, and get that kind of stuff. But if your only options are grocery stores, there's still ways to navigate it and be smart about it. You know, if you're a meat consumer, like meat by itself is not a bad thing. There are certain companies that treat animals very inhumanely, and they are a product. Yeah. And as such, the quality of what you get is not great for you. So it's hard to be healthy because we really don't know, for the most part, what is it going into our food and how it is grown. I mean, we're seeing a lot of stuff coming out these days around toxic chemicals that have been used in farming practices. True. Within hormones within meat and other things over the time. So it's like now they're finding microplastics in our blood and all sorts of other stuff, right? So it's harder and harder to just have a baseline of being healthy, which is why it's a conscious thing for me, right? It's not a conscious thing for everyone in their lives. That's okay. Yeah. For me personally, because I have the opportunity to meet the people and ask them questions about their farming practices and understand what their cycle is, it's worth the little bit more money I pay, but I get a lot more out of it in the long run.
Yeah, totally.
As well as I get the whole vegetables that I have the knowledge to utilize. I recognize not everyone has that knowledge. All I'm saying to people out there is that there is so much more to vegetables and to meat and to the things that you are consuming that it's worthwhile to put a little bit more effort into for your own self.
Totally. Yeah, and I feel like this could apply to a lot of things in life as well. There's probably a lot of disciplines we only scratch the surface of. And if we just put in a little more effort or a little bit more oomph, we could probably get a lot more out of a lot of things in life.
There's also a lot of beauty in the confidence that comes with being able to cook.
Totally. I 100% agree. Yeah. Yeah, again, like you said earlier, you definitely cook for your mental health. Like, same. I find it therapeutic.
What's your go-to food if you need some comfort?
Yeah, my go-to food is like, it's sort of like a bastardized Thai curry. And I say that it's bastardized because it's not really authentic Thai curry. Because I put in a lot more than you should. Like, Uncle Roger would hate me. But
as long as you're not washing your rice after it's cooked, then you should be fine.
Yeah, no. Who people do that?
Oh yeah. Okay. Watch some Uncle Roger videos.
That's weird. Interesting. Yeah, but I'll put like, lately I've been putting, like a garlic ginger base, sesame oil, sweet potato, eggplant if I'm feeling spicy, some kind of bell peppers, or I like to use poblano peppers, honestly, because I just think they taste better. It's just me personally. And then what I'll do is I'll mix coconut milk, the Trader Joe's yellow curry sauce, and the curry paste that you taught me about with the lady on it. I think I have some in my fridge right now, actually.
That stuff's amazing.
Yeah, it's so good. And it lasts quite a while, actually.
The mayploy. Anything mayploy is generally pretty solid.
Right.
If you go into an Asian restaurant, it's always got mayploy, sweet chili, everywhere you go.
Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of my go-to. And then whatever meat we're feeling, chicken, shrimp.
What'd you call me?
You've done heard that before. So yeah, that would be definitely my go-to. I don't know. We're very much a curry household. We love it, whether it's Indian, Thai, Japanese. I've definitely made Japanese curry before as
Japanese
well. I love it so much. Yeah, good Japanese curry ramen makes me so happy. But what about you?
Throw some katsu on it.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, some very simple things like miso soup for me is just deeply comforting.
Okay.
I usually always have a batch of dashi in my freezer.
Yes.
And then just bust out some wakame and green onions, good miso paste, and some tofu. And it's just salty and umami and warming and filling and just... Now, if I'm making comfort food, I probably do like a cacio de pepe.
Okay. Describe that.
It's just deliciousness. I make mine a little bit differently than it's done traditionally.
Okay. How so? I'm curious.
So I'll cook off the pasta. Always reserve pasta water. Pasta water is gold.
Sweet.
Because you want to salt the water to taste like the sea.
Yep. I always do. Yep.
And you reserve the pasta water. Do not throw that down the sink. That is liquid gold. But in a container, I'll shave a ton of Parmesan and some Romano. Crack a lot of pepper. And then I will put in a couple egg yolks and mix that together. Mm-hmm. I'll add a little bit of the water from the pasta to temper the eggs a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if you pour that straight in, it's going to cook and then scramble. So a little bit of water there to temper it. And then in the pan, add the pasta, add a little bit of pasta water, let that kind of cook and soak, take it off the heat, and then add that mixture. And then basically it kind of turns into this silky sauce as you mix it. The egg starts to not necessarily set, but if it's wet enough that it becomes super creamy and delicious. Right. And then a little bit of salt, finish. And it's just
yeah, that sounds.
And you can add, bacon, pancetta, or something else, but that makes it more of a carbonara.
Sure.
The pepe piece of it is just like it's a very pepper forward dish.
Yeah. Yum. I love pepper. The time that I come visit you in Seattle, you have to make both of those for me.
Hell yeah.
Because I never knew you actually digged miso soup that way. That's awesome.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time. Not a lot of time making dashi. It's pretty simple to do. But I like making big batches. And I love that. It's always on hand.
So in closing this episode about food, I did want to mention one more thing in that there's a number of ways you can cook food and get to a similar result, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean one way is necessarily wrong or one way is necessarily right. In most cases, right? There are exceptions. Like I'm not going to microwave a steak, right?
Chef Mike.
But but there are a number of ways you can do stuff to get to a similar result of deliciousness. And in life, it's the same way. With lots of things, there's a numerous amount of methodologies that we can implement to get to a result that is good. And I just want to encourage anyone listening, if, like we were talking about earlier, if you've been failing at something and you think that hope is lost, maybe try again in different ways, because there's definitely a number of ways that you can approach problems in life and they will yield a similar result. Now, some will be better than others. Of course, there's always exceptions. Life is gray, but we're smart. We know this. Yes. I really want to encourage you all to try again, but in different ways. So any more thoughts, man? This has been great. I'm really hungry now, to be honest.
I'm salivating. No, I again just want to kind of just have the conversation to break down certain barriers, and anyone can reach out to me at any time. Well, most times to ask about food. I'm happy to answer questions. food is enjoyment at its core. We live in a world of technology and, there's a lot of things going around about AI right now.
Yeah.
The beauty of cooking is that it truly is a human art form that is very personal. Everyone has a different taste. Everyone has a different sense and their sensitivity.
Everyone has a different way of
how you like
making
something.
it. Yeah.
And you can make a recipe and every single person will do it differently. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the beauty of being human.
Yes.
And people's different approach to things. You can always approach things in a different way.
Love that. Absolutely.
And bring something else to the table.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, it's an amazing thing that brings community together. And as a social species, us as humans, that's definitely something we should often be striving for, right? Because community is so important. Can't stress that enough. And if you've seen any of my other videos or content or been to any of my DJ sets, you know that I preach that message like crazy. So find community wherever you can. And if that's centered around food, great. If it's centered around something else, but then you have some good food there too, great. Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, that's a wrap. So I threw it out there that I wanted to have more engagement, right, on the last episode of the podcast. And this time we threw it out there and we asked about your food stories and what kind of things have inspired you or brought you joy when it comes to food. And yeah, we've got something good from Rocky. This is a VGM drummer who plays a lot with Gunderslam's band and with Mon, and love this guy to death. So basically, his food story, I'm just going to read what he sent me verbatim on Instagram. Okay, so food story. It was as recent as Christmas. Growing up with a different culture than the typical American one, the holidays were a very special time. For Salvadorans, we obviously don't celebrate Thanksgiving, as it's an American and Canadian, albeit a different date, thing. So we still did a turkey, but for Christmas and New Year's. And then my family adopted doing it again for Thanksgiving when we moved up here to the States. Years passed, and I always took for granted the difference between an American turkey, aka how it's prepared, versus what I've always had. So I eventually started dating Americans and going to their celebrations of holidays, and lo and behold, the main dish, which I was always stoked for, was dry or not as tasty, and the gravy was much different than what I was used to my whole life. So come this past Thanksgiving, I'm with my lady and her family for Turkey Day, and the food was good. Hell, the turkey was too. But when I called my mom to wish her happy Thanksgiving, she sent me a picture of what I grew up eating, and a little part of me inside cried. So I swore for Christmas I was going to make the turkey Salvadoran style, and I told my mom as much, who lives states away, me in Michigan, her and my family in Florida. She messaged me the ingredients and recipe on how to prepare it the way I've always enjoyed my bird, and did not disappoint. For Christmas, my girlfriend's family and I feasted and enjoyed what I grew up loving as a child. It really allowed me to become closer with her family and show her a bit of my culture, which she rarely gets to see and doesn't know much about. It made me ecstatic knowing that something so simple made such a big impact. Rocky, thank you for sharing that story. It is incredible how just preparing a turkey a different way, and honestly, like probably a way better way, if I'm being real, was that impactful and it brought your families closer together. I absolutely love that. Well, that was a great story. And yeah, I think that about does it for our time here. Hope you enjoyed coming along on that journey with us. Remember that there's a number of ways you can do things and you can yield similar results. So if you keep failing, try again in a different way. Nate, I love you, man.
It needs salt. It always needs more salt.
Wait, my loving you needs more salt, or?
Yeah, you're not salty enough.
Well, I freaking love you.
You're a little too spicy.
Yeah. We will see you next time on The Quest Within.